Stewie.
The weather around here has been really nice lately, but we are expecting a few days of rain in the row with cooler temperatures. So today my only task is to get the boys' shelter up, as well as Ziggy, Scarlet, and Prim's. I'm going to try really hard not to get distracted today, but sometimes it is really difficult with these boys.
Not time for your... Stop being so nosy, Stuart. Boy. Not ready yet, Stewie. Not ready yet, buddy. Oh. Boy, Gus. Good boys. What are you boys doing? Pete. Hi, Pete. What are you boys doing? Like, Stu, you got poop on you, buddy.
Just as I was getting in a pretty good groove, I noticed the boys were locked onto some kind of animal in the distance, and I just had to check it out and see what it was. One thing I saw a bunch of when we were actually looking at properties in this area were rock chucks or marmots. The little squeak that I was hearing was extremely ear-piercing, and I thought it might be one of those, but I was really surprised to find out what exactly was making this ruckus. When I finally got done triangulating where the sound was coming from, I noticed that there was a wee little beast up on the rocks. I very sneakily made my way over there and was really surprised that it was just a little squirrel.
He is loud.
So far at the new place, I've seen some little tiny chipmunks, some rabbit, a skunk that is living pretty close. The porcupine I haven't seen, but there is obviously some evidence after Scarlet's run-in. I'm not exactly sure what kind of squirrel this is, but it's certainly louder and a bit more bigger than the ones I'm used to. This little dude was very brave, and I was able to get pretty darn close before it skittered away. All of these rocks were moved to where I'm calling the arena, but I think it was just a building pad for maybe a garage or a barn in the past. My plan to not get distracted is not going very well, but I am still constantly discovering new things about this property, so a little bit of a detour for the day is not going to hurt. The shelters that I'm putting up today are the 12 by 20 ones, so they're twice as big as the one I put up previously. We're projecting to get 1/8 of an inch of rain in the upcoming storm on one day, so it is going to be quite a bit of moisture. This is the desert, so I want to have a shelter situation set up for all of the horses. When the weather was nicer, it wasn't a big deal because it was so warm out, but now it is getting colder overnight and the horses do need a bit of protection. I worked on the shelter for a few more hours, went inside to have lunch, and then I spotted Scarlet out the corner of my eye getting into a bunch of trouble with the other horses. This girl just loves putting on a show. It is really interesting to see the difference between the way these three act at the new place versus the place up in Montana. Scarlet has always loved to run around and stretch her legs, and in the past Ziggy wouldn't hesitate to join her. It seems like instead of racing around with Scarlet, Ziggy is much more interested in eating for two with Prim. I really wish I had a bigger area to let her out and race around. I also think she would now enjoy the company of Stewie much more. This pen is certainly big enough for now, but I am excited to when these horses will have more space to run around.
Oh, mare.
I did turn Frisco out on the grass around the house just to mosey around and eat, and I'm pretty sure that's why this little girl is putting on such a show. Frisco is fine to roam about on his own, but this girl, however, is not to be trusted in wide open spaces. Both Prim and Ziggy are seemingly unimpressed by all of the racing around that's going on today. I think Prim knows that she really needs to pack on the pounds now, and Ziggy is always interested in extra snacks. I can already tell that the weather's changing, so I better hightail it out of here and get back to working on the boys' shelter.
What's she doing, Zig? Mare? What do you think, Goosey?
Just like the other shelter I put up, I am doing a bit of a frame on the bottom. This one is a little bit different because it has feet on all of the ends of the poles, so I can actually screw it down into the wood. I'm thinking now that I definitely should have built the frame first.
Oh, hey, Goosey.
I was pretty
Okay.
surprised that out of all of the horses, Goose was most interested in what I had going on in the shelter. Although it is supposed to rain pretty hard here, it still is probably warm enough for all of these boys to be out without any shelter. I'll be really interested to see if they actually use this or if they just want to stand underneath the trees as usual. While it is going to get a little bit colder, I don't think it is going to be below freezing any of the days it is supposed to be raining. In order to increase the chances that this shelter doesn't blow away in a windstorm, I tried to put it on a place where there is some natural protection from the wind. This little spot has really good drainage. The only thing I'm not quite sure about is how close it is to the woods. The other day, the neighbor showed us some pictures of all the bear that he's seeing on the game cameras. There's the one that I've been seeing all the time that is pretty huge for a black bear, and then there is a mama with 2 cubs. Because this property has a creek that runs right through it and a bunch of woods, I think it's a pretty big wildlife corridor for all different kinds of things. I set up some game cameras, but due to user error, I haven't been able to see exactly what is getting close to the horses at night. It is possible that this shelter is too close to the woods for them to feel safe inside of it. I am still constantly making different plans as to where the centralized location for all of the horses are going to be long term. For the winter and spring, I do think that where all the horses are now is perfectly adequate. Everybody seems to be adjusting really well to the new place. The only one that I've been noticing is a little bit extra scared is Pete, and that is really not surprising at all. It certainly helps that he has a bunch of friends around him, and I've noticed that he is really buddying up with Stewie these days. Where the horses are all located now is probably the safest place for them as far as predators are concerned. It is really close to the house. I can actually see all the pens from different windows. I am running into a slight problem with the horsey smell because I had never realized it before, but as long as I have been married, I have not kept the horses on a property that we live on. Before we purchased this place, I was renting separate facilities for humans and horses, so my husband has never had to live around all of these horses full time. It is not something that I really thought about too much when I was planning on having the horses so close. But because I am just leaving the manure from now and letting it pile up until I can clean it out in one fell swoop, I think it is creating a little bit of a problem. I know in a previous video I showed a special little isolated pasture with trees on both sides, and that was where I was planning on putting the horses initially. It is pretty far away from where I'm storing all the hay. It would be really difficult to get water out there, and there are a ton of deer, and the bear does travel through that pasture. Because it does have trees on both sides though, it would be really good as windbreak for the horses in the winter and to keep the smell kind of heading out away from the house. I bought a lot of footing to put down in the dry lots, but it looks like it's not going to go as far as I had hoped. This little girl had about 6 inches of it put right where her pen is, just so none of the old metal or glass that I couldn't get bubbled up. Some of the footing has been through one rainstorm already, but I'm kind of hoping to get a better idea of how this footing will work after this upcoming storm. I know a lot of you guys are going to want an update on this little girl. Even though I've been able to do a lot of things with her pretty early on, I do think that she is still under quite a bit of stress. She has been doing a lot of ear pinning lately, and I've noticed more and more that when I do too much with her, which honestly is not very much at all, she gets a little bit more upset. This is something that is very similar between her and when I was working with Scarlet. It seems like she can keep it together for a while, and then over time she kind of gets frustrated and then stressed out. I've been doing a lot of target trading with this girl with the alfalfa to get her more comfortable with me touching her. She is incredibly smart, and if I don't come over in the morning right away with snacks, she gets a little bit impatient.
I'm coming.
I didn't get Ziggy and the girls' shelter up yesterday, so today that is what I am going to be finishing.
I'm going.
I've been doing a lot of passive horse training with the new Mustang. Having her observe all kinds of crazy things around here has really benefited her. It is probably the best low stress way to get her used to everything that humans do that may be scary to a wild horse. I'm really hoping today I can get this shelter put up in less than 2 hours. Since I just put one up yesterday, I think I've got a few ideas to make it go a little bit more smoothly. These 3 were certainly not as bad as the boys yesterday, but they still came over to get scratches every once in a while. The directions for this say that you really need 3 people, but I had no trouble putting it up all by myself. It takes a little bit of extra planning, but it is totally doable. When the shelter was finished, I was disappointed to see Scarlet just hanging out under the tree for shade.
Little girl.
By the next morning, I could definitely see the storm clouds rolling in. Being at around 6,000 feet of elevation puts us right on the line for rain versus snow. I still think it's going to be a little bit too warm for us to get snow here, but up on the mountain and the mesas, we should see a little bit of the white stuff. The new girl has a shelter. Nigel has a little makeshift shelter for this storm. The boys, Ziggy, Scarlet, Prim, and Frisco Bill all have shelters so they can stay out of the rain.
Ooh, you stressed? You got stress?
In an effort to get this girl to actually consume her ration balancer, I did put some alfalfa leaves in with it today.
You sneaky little girl.
But this girl figured it out in no time. It has already started to sprinkle a little bit, and I really want to make sure that this footing stays as nice as possible for as long as possible. I need to get all of her little turds out of here so they don't get mixed in with this footing. Maybe the storm is making her a little bit more excitable, but this girl did seem a little bit extra stressed and upset today. While she's brave enough to come up and interact with me, sometimes when she goes to move away, she gets a little bit extra sassy and kicks up her heels. Not something that I want her to get into the habit of, so we are working at it a little bit every day. I think this Mustang is the type of horse that looks really easy from the outside, but after working with her for a little bit over a week now, I can tell that she's got a few little things that could escalate out of control. This is definitely the kind of Mustang that I would anticipate someone possibly getting hurt with, because they're so calm and relatively quiet, and then an explosion happens that you didn't see coming, but actually there were a lot of signs in the beginning. My favorite part of horse training is troubleshooting little things like this. I don't think this is something that's going to be a problem forever, but it is something that I need to address and have under control before she goes to her new home.
It's a good girl. Ooh, sassafras.
I think we are pretty well prepared for the upcoming storm.
Nigel!
Frisco Bill is going to get a rain sheet on just in case he doesn't want to stand inside for the storm. Since the weather is going to be pretty miserable for the next couple of days, I think it will be the perfect opportunity for me to finish Tiny's little shed. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next video.